I have an incredible support between my family, my husband, our friends, this amazing bear community that we are a part of. So, I think no matter how we move through life, we take some hits, and we just have to be ready and know that we have the support to get through them.
Be a bear success. And we are bear success.
And I'm Eric.
I'm Christian. Welcome to your show. In this episode, we're going to talk about two things
that
like.
We love.
Yes. One is
food,
and the second,
bears.
So imagine and have them together. So we're going to have a chat with Jonathan
Bardzik.
Yes, he's a bear.
And a chef.
And a chef. Has cooking books. He has there's a lot of videos and live streams on Instagram. Demos. He's been in several TV shows. So we're going to talk to him about a bit of everything.
Yes, it's a mishmash.
I'm Jonathan Bardzik. I'm a self-trained cook, author, and storyteller with over 20 years of experience in my home kitchen. Through storytelling and those simple, delicious recipes, I share my experience and my love for cooking with seasonal farm-fresh food.
Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, Jonathan.
How are you both?
We're both okay.
How are you?
Wonderful.
How has your life been during the pandemic?
Different, but good. I got word that things were changing fast right as this was starting. I was doing a live demo at an apartment building here and had a TV appearance locally the week before St. Patrick's Day here in the U.S. And at both venues, they said, you will literally be the last person that we talk to until this COVID situation has ended. And so I went home that weekend and said, I guess I got to reinvent everything I do, because at the moment it was all with, in front of live audiences in TV studios. So by Monday, I had moved everything that I did online. It's been a lot of work, but really successful and great to still stay connected to people.
Yes, yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations for a good
adapting the
adaptation.
Thank you. It is one of the neat things that I've done with it. I do 3 live chats every week on Instagram. I'm taking a little break in August, but I'll be right back to it in September. And I've done some interviews, and it's been so much fun talking to different farmers and producers and small businesses, and hearing about how everyone is finding, not everyone, but a lot of folks are finding really innovative ways to stay successful and stay connected during this time.
Actually, it was about the second question, like how's been doing because now many chefs especially, they find out this new niche, which is doing things online or streaming. So how's it been doing for you that?
It has. So before now, the bulk of the business side of what I do was cooking in front of live audiences, doing demos, telling stories, talking about farm fresh seasonal ingredients. And that obviously went away. And so I'm doing it for free on Instagram just to stay connected with people and stay out in front of people. I have also been doing some private events for businesses, nonprofits, families, groups of friends, apartment buildings, and doing cook-alongs. So it's sort of a brand new space for me to be in, but it has been very successful so far.
And how did you start? When did you realize? You want to be a chef?
This whole effort, this adventure, started 9 years ago. At the time, I was director of marketing for a national trade association here in Washington, D.C., and I was 37 at the time, married to my husband, Jason, for a couple of years. Work was going well. I lived over on Capitol Hill, which is beautiful, and shopped at farm markets every weekend. Life was great. And I started thinking, so I've checked all of those before you turn 40 years old boxes, all the things you're supposed to get done before you hit sort of midlife. What's the next big adventure? And some conversations, including with a professional coach, led to my first live cooking demonstration at the end of July 2011. And I went back week after week, and by the end of the season, knew I had found something special. By the end of my second year, knew this was going to be my new vocation. But prior to that, I had never cooked in front of an audience, and I had never cooked professionally for anyone. So I have no formal training. This is totally built from the ground up on passion.
Wow. So I had to learn as you go, to doing the demonstration, cooking live. Wow.
And it's two skill sets at once, right? There's the cooking part of it, but if I had to choose between cooking and entertaining, I would say the real core of what I do is entertain and connect with people.
Yeah, because it might be complicated to focus on the food and also entertaining. You know, some shows, they have the parts already made, but sometimes not so. Even things being made already can be
very true,
complicated.
It takes some focus. One of the interesting things that I experienced in the last year, last September and October, I filmed an 8-episode TV show that will be out later this year on Here TV and Amazon Prime Video. And we cooked everything during the episode. There was no one sort of backstage preparing swap outs. So very often the way they film is that they will make, 15 different versions at a dish at different stages of preparation, and there will be three identical copies of that dish ready to go, so that if you have multiple takes at a certain point, you can just kind of swap it in. And I really wanted something that both was and felt authentic. And so we cooked everything in real time during the episode. So when you see it, we speed that up for you a little bit, because we probably took 3 to 4 hours per episode. But all of the food that you see at the beginning is what we are eating when we sit down at the table at the end.
Delicious.
And especially for us, as I confess, we don't cook at all.
Yeah, we're
very bad.
Unfortunately.
Bad boys. Yeah. People ask sometimes, nutritionists call us, what do you cook? I say, oh, actually, not much.
A lot of frozen stuff reheated.
Yeah, no.
Well, I love the cooking process, but I think people find that pleasure in a lot of different ways. For me, everything that I do is built on this core belief that life can and should be lived with joy every single day. And I feel that one way that is really easy to access that, for me anyways, is preparing a simple meal, setting a table, and sharing it with the people I love. And you can enjoy parts of that without ever cooking a meal. And you can find that in lots of other ways. But I think that core of saying, today, this day, this moment of my life is worth celebrating, and it's worth celebrating the other people that I share it with, not just waiting for the next big holiday, the next bear run, the next trip that I take. But every single day of our lives, we're special, we're worth celebrating, and we should do that on a regular basis.
Yeah, especially now, everything going on, we realize we have to celebrate every day. You can't wait for tomorrow. Do today.
Definitely.
Really, with COVID right now, that next vacation, that next big dinner out isn't happening for a lot of us. And so finding ways to make sure that we don't just say, well, I'll get back to living my life in a year, but really saying, great. So all of this has changed. How do I still keep liking my life, even though all of these challenges are presenting themselves at the moment?
Yeah, I think COVID shows that we have to adapt, not just for this, but in general. Sometimes we complain or expect so many things, but maybe life has to be flexible, things change, have to adapt and do different ways. So I think it's a good way to take from this.
Very true. What is it like being an out gay man in the culinary world?
It's interesting. I'm not in commercial kitchen spaces, and I've heard that is a particularly challenging place to be out and gay, LGBTQ. But for me, the experience that I had at the beginning, I started doing, day one was doing a live cooking demonstration at a farm market. And I was back there every week. And this farm market, this historic Eastern market here in Washington, D.C., is incredibly diverse in terms of the communities that shop there. So you are seeing lots of different colors and religions, which I've learned by talking to people over the years, ages, income brackets, and gay marriage was not a national thing when I first started. And so that first week, for the first time in probably 20 years of my life, I was really seriously asking that question again. What do I call my husband? How do I talk about our relationship and our life together? And the third weekend, I had a conversation with someone that really got me thinking. And I said, okay, what I'm doing out there isn't just cooking. It's really a lot of storytelling. And good storytellers sort of, shut down their conscious mind a little bit, give up some control, and just sort of open up their hearts and their mouths and let those stories, let their life experiences come out. And if I'm spending all of my time trying to figure out whether I'm supposed to be calling Jason my husband, my partner, my roommate, I'm never going to be a good storyteller. I also decided on that day, if I'm going to be building an audience, if I'm going to be building a fan base, a community, I'd rather just make it clear up front to someone that I'm gay. So if that's a problem, they can go find happiness with somebody else to cook with. But there's still moments. I mean, I have cooked from Massachusetts to San Francisco and lots of points in between. And there are definitely moments where I think I am about to say husband in an environment that I don't know if this is going to be friendly. But I think it's important to do. For me, I guess it is. I don't know that I would call myself an activist, but I feel as a member of our community, there is a responsibility to be making a contribution. And this is where I see my contribution is to put my relationship on display in this way. And the response that I've seen, I think because I tell stories, is even if someone has an immediate reaction to, did he just say husband? 30 seconds later, they're going, oh, wait, my significant other and I had this exact same experience. Right? I know what it's like to fight over how much you spend on something as silly as butter. I know what it's like to forget a wedding anniversary. And that goes past any differences that of how our relationships look like from the outside.
Have you yourself ever experienced or seen any discrimination based on being gay?
Oh, I don't know that I've ever seen anything overt. I don't think I've been called names. I certainly, I live in Washington, D.C. I've certainly seen in our LGBTQ publications reports of anything from discrimination to really severe violence. So I know it is happening around me. I think I've gotten incredibly lucky.
What is it like being one of the most sought after LGBTQ chefs in the United States?
Especially nowadays.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would claim that, but I have so much fun with what I do. I mean, when people ask me what's it like working for yourself? What's it like following a passion like this? And I tell them, it is amazing to get up every single day and say, I can't wait to live this life, to get to be me. And so that's every time that somebody shows up, somebody makes a comment, part of my online community, someone who's a fan makes a comment, tells me that they like watching what I'm doing. They like, following me, buying my books, eventually watching my show. It just feels like such a gift on top of everything else to know that not only do I get to do this, but that other people are out there supporting me. And I'm so grateful to everyone who does.
And also we inspire people too. So many young cubs that see you and think, oh, he can be a chef, he can follow his passion, maybe he can follow mine too. So yeah. You open doors for many other people.
I certainly think about that, and most significantly from the perspective of, what would it have meant to see me, to see you guys when I was 14, 18, 25 years old. So I hope that being out there, being visible, being successful, and successful for myself as opposed to in comparison to anyone else. But I hope living a life that feels really good to me and that brings me a lot of joy does let other people know that this path is possible out there. Because I think a lot of us, when we're coming out, don't recognize that at first and haven't always had the role models or even people to just show us that this is possible. So I do hope that I'm doing that for other people. There's a moment, if I may share with you, from the TV show I'd love to talk about, if this is a good moment.
And I should speak about your... Go for it.
So there's this moment that I was really excited to film. In the third episode of the TV show, my parents are here in the kitchen with me. So in every episode, there's a different person joining me in the kitchen. And in episode 3, it's my mom and my dad. And at the end of the episode, my husband walks through the front door, and Dad is there setting the table, and he walks over and gives Jason a big hug. And I walk in the back door having just grilled some chicken. And Jason walks into the kitchen, gives Mom a big hug, and we all sit down and have dinner together at the table. And it's not a big moment. It's not, there's nobody's crying. There's no big reconciliation or anything. It's just my husband and I sitting down in our home at our dining room table with my mom and dad. But when we filmed that moment, I thought, knowing that this reality was possible would have meant so much to me. And I hope that it's able to mean that much to somebody else.
The moments are very impactful, especially with share stuff like that. Yeah. Especially being in a gay world, like, you have a husband, family's here, everybody's fine. It's a happy family.
Yeah. It's always nice to see that.
Have you shared any story that sometime later, oh my God, should have said that, or your husband said, why did you say that? Did that kind of thing happen?
With Jason questioning why I've said things about us?
Yeah.
Like, oops.
So one of the things that I decided from the beginning was that if I was going to create a brand, if we can call what I do that I wanted a brand where somebody could walk into our home on Tuesday night and say, boy, this is exactly who he told us he was, and there are no surprises here. And from what friends and other people who've gotten to know me well have told me, I've been successful at that. That who you see on TV, who you see on Instagram is me. That is my life. And so I don't think Jason rarely, there are a few moments where I'll throw him under the bus for a little bit of a laugh. And he will do the same to me on camera. But we do that with each other off camera. We joke around, poke each other a little bit every once in a while. So no, I don't think there's anything that he would say, wow, that wasn't for the public to know, because what you see of our life is our life.
And nowadays, internet, many people have this thing of, let's say whatever I think, I don't care. Have a negative reaction sometimes for being so yourself. How do you deal with that? Especially about the brand and yourself. How can you deal with this crazy social media world?
I have a lot of conversations about that. And with the show coming out, which really is a little bit of a window into my life, I'm aware, the internet it's anonymous, and so people can be tough. I also think that it's a place where very often people are commenting from where they're at in their own lives at that point. And so it comes across as mean, it comes across as an attack, and very often it is much more a reflection of an emotional and a real and valid experience that the person commenting is having. It has nothing to do with me. So I can't just not read the comments. That's the advice you always get, right? Don't read the comments. The problem is I've developed such a rich community of people who I want to stay connected to. in through cooking, and so I need to read the comments to see what they're saying to me, to see pictures of what's on their dinner table tonight, to see their questions about a dish I've just cooked. So I can't just totally ignore them. The good news is at the end of the day, I have an incredible support between my family, my husband, our friends, this amazing bear community that we are a part of. So, you know, I think no matter how we move through life, we take some hits, and we just have to be ready and know that we have the support to get through them.
What is the most common misconception about a chef or a media personality?
Most common misconception.
He's a chef, he cooks, so he's dead.
Yeah, here's number one. That you can't cook for me. All the time we have friends say, gosh, I'd love to have you over for dinner, but I can't cook for you. I'm terrified of serving you food. People serve food and they start apologizing for it. And my number one response to that is, I did not get this by turning down a whole bunch of food. So I am easy to feed. There's food that I love. There are things that I espouse to take great ingredients and love them and turn them into delicious dishes. On the other hand, what I love most about food is its ability to bring us together and let us share time together. So if you've had a tough week and you want to have me over for dinner and order out a couple pizzas, or defrost something and heat it up in the oven, I am glad to come over and sit at your table. Because I love connecting with people. I love sharing time with people. So whatever the food looks like that makes that happen, I am thrilled to share.
So I can invite you here without guilt.
Yeah,
Good.
we don't have to worry.
So now I can invite you. You're fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things I love about cooking at home is there is not a second take on this omelet. So if that butter's a little brown, you're going to have a brown butter omelet.
Okay, speaking about ingredients, what ingredients do you like to work with the most and the least?
So the core of the cooking that I do is farm fresh seasonal ingredients. Growing up, my parents had a wonderful garden. My dad actually grew up on a small farm. And so we always had fresh food all year long. My mom would can and freeze a lot of vegetables so we'd have them for the winter. We did not have a lot of money when I was really young. So very often she was doing that just because it was more affordable. So, and I find all those ingredients today at local farm markets. Living in a city, I can't grow them all, but I love farm fresh seasonal ingredients. So right now that is tomatoes, peaches, corn, and peppers. And 2 months from now, it'll be broccoli and cauliflower and pumpkins and squash, root vegetables through the winter, and back to spring asparagus and fresh greens. So that's what brings me the greatest joy. What do I struggle with the most? You know, I don't mind packaged and processed foods. There's some that I just don't have access to otherwise. I think what probably bothers me the most is cooking with ingredients that aren't as good when there is something else available. And so for me, when I see asparagus served up in the middle of August, when I could go get really good zucchini and tomatoes, I always think, why am I eating asparagus from Peru, which I know is never going to be as good as it was locally back in April and May? Now, the caveat I always give to this is if asparagus in the middle of August is your favorite thing in the world to eat, ignore every single thing that I say and go ahead and eat it. This is all about making ourselves happy. But that's really, I think, what bothers me most is when there's another great, fresh, local, delicious ingredient that I could work with that takes no work to make it delicious. And I'm using a can of corn. When there's fresh corn on the cob right out there at the farm.
Yeah, have you been to a restaurant or something that, saw something, the meal wasn't wrong, or was exactly what you have done, and maybe you suggest something to the restaurant? Maybe you should do this, or have this kind of situation.
It needs more salt, or it needs more spice, or...
So I am not afraid to ask for a little salt at a restaurant. And part of that is, even though they season it back in the kitchen, all of our palates are different. And I would advise that to anyone who is watching us today, that if you go in a restaurant, you need a little more spice, a little more pepper, a little more salt, by all means, ask for it. Your palate may be different from the kitchen. Just at least take a bite first. I very often hear, gosh, I can cook this better at home than they can in a restaurant. That quality wasn't where I wanted it to be. I give restaurants so much leeway because there's a real difference in cooking a meal for 4 or 6 people that is all being served at the same time than there is putting out 200 plates over the course of 4 or 5 hours. There are, economic factors. There are logistic factors in doing that. So I usually try to give the restaurant a break, even if it's not what I would have done with the dish. Although sometimes those are exactly the experiences that send me home to the kitchen to try cooking something and seeing if I can do it better.
I remember years ago in Indianapolis for a bear event, we went to the restaurant of the hotel and suddenly we heard the microwave from the kitchen. And it felt, it felt like a kitchen nightmare situation. And it was really bad. Everything that
it was
awful.
You could tell it was microwave.
We actually don't have one in the house. We have someone who does a little bit of cleaning here for us. And I make such a mess of the kitchen that I need a little bit of help. And at the end of the first year, he came to me and he said, "So, I was just cleaning your upstairs hallway. We live in a 2-story row house here in DC. Said I was just clearing the hallway. There's grease all over the floor, except right in the middle where you walk all the time." He said, "On the other hand, in most houses that I clean in, the microwave is the most disgusting place in the entire house every time I go in. I have cleaned your microwave only twice in 1 year. You don't need a microwave." So he told us, get rid of the microwave and put in a vent over the stove. We did that. House is much cleaner, less smoky. So we don't even have a microwave, but there are some things that can be done quickly and conveniently with it. For us, we needed the smoke out more than that.
So you've written a couple of cookbooks. What started you to write cookbooks?
The first cookbook that I wrote, I had been doing some blogging, and a writing coach who's part of the LGBT community here in the Washington, D.C. area sent me an email, I guess, and said, "I'm reading your blog. I think you have a book in you. Would you be interested in talking with me more?" And so we had a few conversations, and within 8 months, my first cookbook came out. So I got the bug. I wrote my second one 2 years later, and my third one 2 years after that. And I'm starting to think right now about number 4. I really love writing. It's a different way of communicating from being live in front of an audience. You have more control. You get to say all those things perfectly in a way that you don't always do when you're live. You also get to, I think, shape stories in ways that doesn't always work live. So it's been a great way to explore my life, explore my ideas about food. I do a little bit more research, and I still love. I have lots of books on my shelf, and I love knowing that I'm creating that physical book, that experience that is held in someone else's hands and ends up in their kitchen too.
What's the process to prepare a cookbook? How long does it take to think about it, making and out? Is that how complicated it can be?
So from start to finish, most of my books happened in probably about 10 months to a year. That said, when I first got started doing live demos, I was developing 4 to 6 new recipes every single week to support my live demos. And so I had hundreds of recipes that I had developed, tested on live audiences, gotten feedback on. So I knew they were good. I knew they worked. People would come back and say, "Yeah, I cooked this. the directions made sense. So the recipes were all tested. And I had done a lot of blogging along the way. So a lot of the stories that ended up in the books came from that. The tips, the sort of learning piece came from being out in front of those live audiences all the time and hearing the questions they asked. So yeah, it's great that I should buy, 21 to 25 shrimp. What the heck does that mean? All right, I should put that in the book.
What chef has influenced you, do you think?
If they,
Yeah.
I cut my teeth on a few. I think the chefs that have influenced me most through books and television, the way they wrote, the way they lived, and communicated. So I was spending a lot of time with Julia Child when I first started doing this. Folks like Christopher Kimball from Milk Street, formerly America's Test Kitchen, and that whole very scientific, focused discipline, I think, played a big role, especially when I first started learning back in the day, the Silver Palette cookbook, with vegetarian cooking, Deborah Madison, the Moosewood cookbooks, the vegetarian cookbooks from the 70s and 80s in New York State. Beyond that, I think that all the people who I see take risks to operate a small business and who put themselves out there in front of the public, I have so much respect for and I learn from all the time. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is, if you had asked me this 10 years ago, I would have said, oh, well, this person's terrible and I don't like what they're doing and boy, I can be better than that. And then you do it for 10 years and you realize every single person, whether they are amazing or whether they look like they're struggling to get along, they are all impressive because they're all taking that risk. And that is really, I think the biggest challenge is not the quality of the food. It's not, the number of followers you have on Instagram or YouTube. The biggest challenge is getting out of bed every day and facing what you talked about earlier, which are the negative comments, the fear that is what I'm doing good enough? Can I measure up to Ina Garten? Can I measure up to Martha Stewart, or should I just pull the covers over my head and go back to sleep today? and the decision to go, yep, it's not going to matter for one more day. I'm just going to get up and do what I'm doing and get through another, and we'll see where we go from there. That takes a lot of strength, and so I have, there are specific people who I think have influenced me in terms of how they built their careers and the food that they cooked, but everyone who's out there in this space impresses me and makes me feel supported and keeps me going every day.
Do you watch yourself after? Do you really are you hard with yourself sometimes to watch? Maybe I should have done that. It should be.
Every time I watch myself, I learn something. One of the interesting things that has happened doing this work, because I'm in front of the camera so often, whether it's being photographed or doing 2 minutes live on Instagram, an interview like this, being on TV, you're watching yourself so often. There's a lesbian comedian by the name of Leah Delaria,
yeah,
and who's very well known. She was on Orange is the New Black, and years ago, when I was in college up in Maine, she came during Pride Week in the spring for 2 years and did a stand-up show. And she had this joke about trying on clothes. she said you go into the changing room and there's that mirrored triptych, right? Those 3 mirrors, so you can see yourself from different angles. And she said you put on the clothes and you stand up in front of it and you start going, did I really do that with my hair today? Oh my God, like, is my skin looking okay? And you walk out and you've never looked at the clothes on your body. And so I found myself doing that at first with pictures. You see a picture of yourself and just go, ugh, God, terrible. I can't believe, did I shave? What did I? So I've learned over time that you have to almost see it as another person and look at it and say, is this a good photograph? Not, am I thrilled with how I look? The other thing that really influenced me on that, and I think for our community, this may be particularly important. There's a blog post I read years ago from a woman who talked about hating to have pictures of herself taken, and she would avoid it like the plague. And one year she was at a family event, and they sort of dragged her into a photo, and she sat there and, tucked her hand under her chin to pull the skin tight so she'd have a jawline, she'd hidden back. And the picture went up, and she was just mortified. And somebody called her and said, "You just look fantastic. You have the most beautiful smile in that picture." Mm. And she heard a few more comments like that and realized no one was looking at her body, at her haircut, at all of that stuff. They were looking right here at the joy that she was putting out there. She realized at the same time that her children, who are now, I think the first one was a teenager, had no pictures during their lifetimes with their mom because she was so insistent on not being photographed until someday when she lost more weight, when she looked perfect. And I have really thought about that, particularly being part of the bear community. I could have said, I'm not ready to be on TV. I'm not ready to be photographed until my clothes fit differently, until, I gain some muscle. I mean, whatever we want to say. And at the end of the day, it's not worth putting our lives on hold. And I think it's important remembering that the smile, the connection that you make with other people, the openness and the confidence, that's what's really most attractive. Not what you've built at the gym, not whatever body you were given. It's what you bring to other people.
That situation today of Bardzik said somebody sent a picture which shows he was showing his belly from down. And so that's so sexy picture, so you're going to use that. Oh, but then he said, actually, I have followers that they might not want to see my belly like that. And so, but it's not your belly. So it's what you are. So why you have to hide from them? If they don't like your belly, that's what you have. Yeah. I mean, why hide it? It's so nice, and it's nice to show it. There's nothing to be ashamed.
A lot of people will like it.
Yeah. Easy.
We're all sort of in the same age bracket. And I don't know about you, but one of the joys that I have found in getting older is realizing that there is a fan base for every single one of us out there, right? And I don't mean fan base, in sort of the media way, but there's a group of people out there. There are multiple individuals who think that you are the hottest thing that they could possibly imagine, and there's a group of people who don't think that, and there's a group in the middle that if you gained 10 pounds, lost 20 pounds, might change their mind. But that's none of my business. The only thing that really matters is that somebody does think you're attractive, and feel good about that and let the rest of it go. And, I used to get so much more worried about that in my 20s and early 30s. And I feel like I get to walk through the world with a lot more ease and confidence now. And I hope that other people are getting to have that same experience, because it's exhausting to worry about how you look all the time, and
Very
you shouldn't have to. I don't know about you, but there's so many people of different body shapes and sizes and musculature and skin color and every ages that I think are incredibly attractive. I can't imagine limiting it to one set of things that we all decide are okay.
Yes, what we learn doing bear success. From the beginning, you're more bears oriented, and then realize you can say no to people. We can say, "Oh, you're not good for the page," so it's not
fair enough.
So we say everybody's welcome because there's a place for everything. Everybody, maybe it might not be the most popular, but there'll be some people that'll be into you. They're gonna love the way you are, and that's what. Don't focus on the negative ones. Focus on the good ones. The 10, 20, you should be worried about.
Very true.
That's why I open to everybody.
I really appreciate your page for that. With everything that has been happening this year with Black Lives Matter, and I think a really important evolution in our awareness of what it means to be, person of color, Black, in the U.S., but in the world. I have actually found myself seeing pages that share pictures of lots of guys. And if I can't find someone who is not white and fit in the first 10, 15 pictures, I won't follow them anymore. I've sort of drawn that line for myself where I've just said, this is, and that decision isn't changing the world, but it's one more line to draw for myself to say, there's got to be representation, there's got to be inclusion, and we've got to celebrate each other. And sometimes that means it's not going to be your taste in guys, but it's still important to get out there, and you guys do this so exceptionally well, and I'm grateful for it, to say everyone can be attractive, and we've got to respect and celebrate that. We should all get to feel that way about our bodies.
And this work brings me joy, and that joy makes me a better husband, a better son, a better brother, and a better uncle.
So what are your plans after the pandemic?
Sharing a lot more time with people. We're really lucky. There's two other couples here in DC who we were spending a lot of time with right before this hit. And so we sat down and agreed to some sort of safety standards for the six of us as a group. And we've shared some time together throughout this, and that's really helped. But there are so many other people who I miss seeing. I miss going out to farm markets on the weekend, and where I still shop at them, but I don't get to do live cooking demos there. And I would see, dozens of familiar faces every week and have conversations with them and catch up. So definitely sharing a lot more time with people, definitely doing some travel. It's an amazing way to get to try new foods and to see how people live in the places where they're eating them. And so I really do look forward to getting back to getting on a plane, going into restaurants, but most importantly, filling up our table here in our home and sharing it with other people.
We look forward to all that too.
Yes.
And your show on Amazon, when is that supposed to come out?
It is coming out this fall. If you follow me on social media, and I know I've seen my Instagram tag pop up, it is being produced in conjunction with a production company that is part of Bear World Media, so follow them. You'll see it there also. We'll absolutely make sure that when the official launch date is set that you can't miss it, and I'm super excited about it.
We're looking forward. Now we have subscribed to Amazon now, Prime Time. So
so we're finding that on Amazon.
If they show in Canada, we'll be able to see.
Yep.
We're looking forward.
It'll be 8 episodes, all about 30 minutes long, covering the 4 seasons of the year and sharing the kitchen here in our home with a lot of different people, from my family to my husband and good friends.
That'll be so cool.
That's great. Unfortunately, like we said earlier, we don't really cook much at home. So what kind of foods would you suggest someone who's culinarily challenged, who wants to be able to cook something?
Here's the recommendation I always give when people ask me, how do I get started? Find something super simple that you like and will be okay cooking all the time. So that may be boneless, skinless chicken thighs, right? You can get them in and out of the pan in 15 minutes, or pasta. And pick something that you like, and then just cook that every time you cook, 3 times a week. And you'll get really confident with that one ingredient, and then you can start playing with different flavors. You put a different sauce on it. It's fine if that sauce is out of a jar. You toss it in some different spices. So I always tell people, find something simple, easy, accessible, get confident with it, and then just tweak from there. Because the challenge when you go, well, gosh, I really like Thai food, so I'm going to cook this Thai dish. You know what? I also like Spanish food, so I'm going to cook this Spanish dish. And you're suddenly building a new pantry every time you walk in the kitchen to cook dinner. You're buying brand new ingredients. That's confusing for me. I can't imagine doing that back when I had no idea what I was doing. So find something simple that you're comfortable with and build off of that.
You want to try?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any message, anything like to add to this?
I would get back to what I said at the beginning. I really do believe that life can and should be lived with joy every single day. And I believe that is true for all of us. I think I hope every single person watching this believes that they deserve this, that they are special enough to live their lives this way, because I certainly feel that about them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
What an honor for us.
Thank you for having me. This is such a pleasure.
And I hope we can do more times. And about the show about to start, we can do another one too.
Yeah. So let us know when it's going to start, and we could do something.
I would love that, and I will definitely make sure that you are among the first to know. Thank you so much.
You. And hope you come to Canada, Toronto, sometimes you can see the Toronto huge variety of cultures. And
oh yeah, it's a melting pot.
I would love that. Jason and I have said that we are long overdue for a trip up, and we will definitely let you know when we make it up there.
It was a lot of fun talking to you, Jonathan. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to your show and many more. And don't forget his Instagram, Jonathan Bardzik.
Yes, and also you can check out his website, jonathanbardzik.com.
I also want to get up to date to see what else news coming when he starts doing his live videos again in September.
Yes, and also you can order one of his cookbooks.
Yes. So it's good to see and good to eat.
Yes.
A good thing. So, and you, tell us, are you to cooking? Do you like cooking yourself, since we don't do much?
Yes.
Do you do like us, like a microwave and frozen
Stove,
stuff?
reheating.
Or do you like cooking? If you do, what do you like to cook? Tell us. And what kind of food do you like the most to cook, what you don't?
Yeah, what do you hate?
Like, we don't like seafood, we don't like fish.
We like the seafood, but not eat it.
No, we don't. So, no seafood for us. You tell people want to meet us for dinner, so just thing you don't do is seafood, fish, anything like that.
We'll be hungry.
Yes. So let us know what you like, what you don't like. And
also,
check our website,
yes,
Bardzik.com. We have our YouTube. If you're not here, you're somewhere at youtube.com/Bardzik.
And also our Facebook group,
Instagram, Twitter, all over.
We're everywhere.
Yes. But before you go, something you have to remember, the most important is
stay fluffy.
Culinary career started in 2011 when I began offering weekly live cooking demonstrations at Washington, D.C.'s historic Easter Market with seasonal farm-fresh ingredients. Since then, I've made over 150 live appearances around the country and created more than 600 recipes. Through storytelling and those simple, delicious recipes, I share my experience and my love for cooking with seasonal farm-fresh food. I believe that life can and should be lived well, and we can do that 3 times a day by preparing a simple, delicious meal and sharing it with the people who make our life matter.